Hi, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Di, where we have exciting discussions about finance, business, and personal growth.
Allow me to introduce our special guest, Jen Simpson, also known as Jen Simpson, a Canadian-based author, speaker, transformational coach, podcast host, publisher, and the founder and editor-in-chief of Mirror to the Mic magazine, a global media platform dedicated to amplifying powerful voices across culture, success, healing, and purpose. Centered around identity, legacy, and truth-telling, the publication explores the roots behind success, the realities behind transformation, and the intentional building of legacy. Janelle is also the creator and host of Life's Deceit podcast, where she leads raw and thought-provoking conversations surrounding trauma, identity, generational healing, self-worth, and the journey of becoming. Through her storytelling and transparency, she has cultivated a global audience drawn to authenticity, growth, and purpose-driven dialogue. An award-winning and best-selling author, Janelle's work is deeply rooted in lived experience, using storytelling as a tool to challenge silence, break generational cycles, and empower others to reclaim their voice. She is the creator of the Mirror Method, a transformative framework designed to guide individuals through self-reflection, healing, and personal alignment. She is the author of Commitment to a Deceitful Liar, among other works, with her upcoming sequel, Lips of Truth, scheduled for release in July 2026. Born in Jamaica, Janelle's work remains deeply connected to the Caribbean and the diaspora, with a continued commitment to addressing cultural narratives, emotional healing, identity, and the power of voice within marginalized communities. Through media, storytelling, coaching, and community-centered conversations, her mission is to redefine what it means to build legacy, not by inheritance, but by choice.
For those of you watching on Conversations with Di, we're looking at From Wounds to Wisdom, Turning Pain into Purpose.
Thank you for having me on the platform, Diana. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Likewise, I am really looking forward to her sharing her story with us. So, Jen, tell us a bit about yourself. What makes you unique, and what tell us about how you started out?
Let's start with what makes me unique. What makes me unique is always being willing to learn. We talk about being a sponge. Like we hear it all the time. We tell our kids, be a sponge, soak up information. But as I got older, I realized
Mhm.
that we're always growing, we're always learning. We're never too old and we're never too young to learn. Right now, even in my life, I'm learning things differently with the help of God, because a lot of times we think we know everything. We think we're doing things right. But when we take a step back, we realize no, the growth is when we're able to hold ourselves accountable. The growth is when we're able to say, hey, maybe you did it wrong. The growth is going back to our old version sometimes and saying, well, that version of me did some things that wasn't right. The new version of me now can correct myself. So, like you said, my name is Janelle Simpson. I go by Jen Simpson though. And I started out first, I was born in Jamaica, migrated to Canada when I was 5 years old. Um, my mom migrated to Canada when I was very young, so I didn't get that nurturing from her. I was actually raised with my grandma. So my grandma was really the mother figure until I moved to Canada with my mom. Things were great. I love my mommy. Like I was great being her mini me. But
Mm-hmm.
then growing up, I was molested by my uncle. And I experienced some things in my life that no one should experience. However, if I did not go through that experience, I wouldn't be the woman that I am today. Not saying that me experiencing SA or trauma like that was a good thing, but certain experiences in our lives help to shape who we're supposed to become. Fast forward in life, I wanted to be a lawyer. I thought I was going to go to school and be a lawyer. But then I decided, you know what? Let me start out being a law clerk first and see how I like it, get some experiences from other lawyers, and see if that's a route that I really want to take.
Mm.
Then I went to school for paralegal. Then I realized I don't want to be a lawyer. God has a different calling on my life. During COVID, I became an author and I launched, no, yeah, during COVID, no, I think it's before COVID, I launched my podcast, Life's Deceit. And I also wrote my book, Commitment to a Deceitful Liar. When I wrote the book Commitment to Deceitful Liar, I wrote about my trauma, but I really was trying to focus on the experiences we go through culturally, especially I'm from Jamaican culture and how we deal with things. So a lot of times people misjudge us and they assume, oh my gosh, why would you handle a situation like that? Not knowing that culturally, a lot of things were passed on to us. So a lot of times you see people coming out now saying that they were SA'd and people mishandled it because they didn't know how to handle it. How do you handle hearing your brother molested your daughter? That's a hard thing to swallow, not only for the child, but also for the parent that has to now deal with that. So for a good while, I love my mother dearly, but I carried that with me. Why didn't you protect me? Why didn't you stand up for me? Why did you have me retract my story instead of
Mhm.
saying, no, I'm going to stand by you as my daughter and press charges? Not realizing that my mom was carrying her own weight. She had her own cross to bear, and she was going through things that I couldn't understand at the time as a child. And her first instinct was to make everybody else happy but herself and keep the peace. So when I wrote Commitment to a Deceitful Liar, I was really focusing on how we're committed to things, whether society taught us it, whether it's things that we learned, whether it's something that our parents told us. For example, for me, I was told because I was molested, no man was going to want me. I was told once you have children, chances are, even if you break up in your relationship, no other man's going to want you. We hear these Jamaican terms that men should have multiple partners. As the terminology goes, jealous. If a man hits you, he loves you. We hear those things. Where did it stem from? We misjudge people when we hear that they've experienced certain things in their life, and we're so committed to the things that were thrown on us, were passed down through generations, and unable to break those cycles and unlearn to relearn. So, Commitment to Deceitful Liar wasn't just about my trauma. It was about the experiences that we go through and the cycles that we were born into, passed down through generations that we have to learn how to break. And then I decided I was going to become a founder and an editor in chief of a magazine called Mirror to the Mic magazine. A lot of times we reach to success and we think we reach where we are, but we forget to go back. We forget where our successes started from. We forget to tell people that it wasn't easy. We see the successes and everybody's wondering, how did it happen? But as a culture, as a generation, we don't really tell people the real story of how it happened and that there was a struggle behind it. But even while you're building a business, you may have hiccups, you may experience certain things. The business may fail. That doesn't mean that you won't be successful. That's a little bit about me. I think I told a lot. Maybe
No,
not
I want to
enough,
make
but
sure you get it all out because it's your time. It's your time to basically share with the world what you feel to share with the world and tell us who Jen is. And I'm always interested in the backstory or the origin story because that really tells how much a person has overcome and how far a person has come. Because you're right, a lot of times people show this glamorous, flashy, I've made it now, but they don't always show how they got there. And a lot of times, if we're being honest with ourselves, it is through difficult circumstances or adversity. And just hearing you share your personal story about what happened to you, I thank you for sharing that with us and for allowing us to come into your world for just a little bit to see how you overcome that. So tell me, Jen, how what was a turning point for you that I don't know if you want to share right now, but what was a turning point for you where you felt you had to share that? Like, write about it. You mentioned, and congrats, by the way, you've overcome so much. And just by telling your story, I believe someone watching or listening will be impacted in a positive way. So thank you for sharing. But again, congratulations for using it and for using your platform to help others. What was that turning point, if you don't mind sharing?
COVID. And I
Really?
think,
Okay.
yeah, and I think COVID for a lot of people birthed a lot of things. Reaped a lot of things, birthed a lot of things, broke a lot of things, grew a lot of things. And for me, during COVID was when I realized you are one, you're a people pleaser. Two, you have never really dealt with that pain and that trauma. Three, you're covering yourself in this career that you have and not really allowing yourself to become the person who God really wants you to become. It's like I was hiding myself. COVID came and something just, I don't know, something just broke in me. Like, what am I doing? Why am I delaying my calling? Why am I so afraid to face the things that are going on? I think COVID was like a silent moment for a lot of people. Like it forced people into silence. It was loud, but still forced people into silence. And COVID put me in a place where I work in the corporate world. I'm a law clerk. I work in this big law firm. I'm making amazing money. But I was almost like I was killing myself to prove something, not realizing that I was trying to prove something, that I was reliable, that I was capable, that I'm a strong Black woman, that I can do all things, and that I'm not weak, and that I
That's
don't
my
need a
favorite
rest.
scripture, by the way. I can do all things through Christ.
Who strengthens me,
Yeah.
and that I don't need a rest. And when COVID hit, I worked myself to the ground. To the ground. I was still going to the office even when I didn't feel well, working late hours,
So
spending.
you weren't working from home. You had to go into the office.
We had to go
That
in
was
every day to the office.
okay.
Every day. We did not get any special treatment at all, specifically our team. And that's another story. But
Yes.
we did not get any special treatment. And then I realized, what are you doing? You are replaceable. You have become, at certain points, God will call us to be still. But I was stagnant. So I was working
Right.
this job, all these things were happening. And I was at work and God said, start writing. And I was like, what? I'm not writing nothing. I can't be no author. And he said, commitment to a deceitful liar needs to be written now. And as I was writing, it was like some shedding was happening, like some healing was happening, and I could feel it. I finished that book. I think I said I finished it in less than a week. And I held on to it for months, saying, what did I just write? I'm not going to put this out. I wanted to change my words. And God kept saying, don't change your words. This is the season I need you to birth this now. You have stayed small for too long. You have unhealed vessels that I need to heal. It's time for you to stop running from me. And I'll tell you this, I've been running from God for a very long time, a very long time, because I didn't understand my giftings at all. I was confused. I didn't have anybody to go through. And for a while, I thought I needed a mentor. God, I need a mentor to guide me through this. Tell me what my gifts are because I don't understand why these things are happening. I just don't understand my gifts. I don't understand my gifts of tongues. I want to understand it. Send somebody. And we have to be careful. I'll just say this. We have to be careful when we're craving somebody to be there as a mentor because we will delay what God's already showing us because God is a teacher. He teaches us. He will literally download that software in us and knowledge. And people will wonder, well, how do you know that? Who taught you that? I learned it from him. I learned it from him. Literally, I thought I needed a mentor, and God had to show me, you don't need a mentor. I am your teacher. I am the source. Stop running from me. So when I birthed that book, it wasn't for myself. It was for other people that were experiencing the same things that I've went through. The relationship with my mom. I could talk to my mom on the phone, but every time I used to speak to her, it was like I didn't like it was an annoyance. It was a nuisance to me. I couldn't speak to her and just not feel anything. I felt like this, I just want to get off the phone with her right now. Because I didn't realize I was still carrying pain from her not defending me, from her not allowing me to speak my truth, for her allowing them to say that I lied when she knew that it was the truth. COVID changed everything for me. COVID made me look in that mirror. And the time was then because a lot of people were going through things, a lot of people were at home, a lot of people were experiencing trauma, but were too afraid to talk about it because they didn't want to come off as weak, or people judging them saying, well, why didn't you speak earlier?
Because you would have been an adult obviously by this time. You did 6 years ago. Can't believe it's been 6 years. So you basically brought out this story long after it happened.
Way long after it happened.
Right.
But nobody wants to walk with that plague on them. It's considered a plague. Nobody wants to talk about that. People are going to pull apart your story. How did that happen?
It's almost like you're victimized all over again.
You're victimized all over again.
Reliving.
You're reliving it all over again. And then he drawed me to the podcast. And I was like, you want me to do podcasts? You want me to go in front of a camera? I'm not doing that. And he's like, you're still playing small and you're still hiding yourself. And I need you to come out from there.
How do you know that it was God speaking to you? Because I think some people who are not necessarily Christians or they don't understand, how do you know God is speaking to you? Because sometimes they'll say, oh, God told me this and God told me to go there or go here or to do this. What made you feel that this was Him speaking to you and giving you that direction?
So
And then
especially
you
when you say
listened.
especially when you say it for people who aren't Christians, I would say it doesn't have nothing to do with Christianity, first of all, because it's more about the relationship you have. If you built a relationship with God, you will know when it's Him. And that's something that I had to stop doing. I had to stop running so I could hear Him. I had to turn off the noise. My own voice I had to turn off and really be able to decide and know, was that God's voice or is it just me or is it some other voice that's telling me something that doesn't sound right? When you have a relationship with God, you will know.
Yeah.
That and that is the truth, because lots of them like, oh, you're saying God said this, God said, but when you have a relationship with Him, you will know when it's Him speaking to you. You will know when it's Him that touched you. You will know that it's Him moving through your body. You have to have a relationship and have that experience. So I knew, and I knew it to be true because I had that relationship with Him.
So you came to the realization that you had to get this book out. You had to launch this podcast. And through writing the book and through having the podcast, was that how your healing came about, or was it before?
So I always say healing's a journey. Healing is not a destination. And I say this boldly because I know it to be true. And the reason why I say healing is a journey is because we're humans. We are spiritual beings, but we move by the flesh first. And a lot of times things will happen and it re-triggers something. A situation may happen in a friendship and you realize, wait, hold on, what's going on? Why am I reacting in this way? Then you realize, hold, there's an area in your life that you never dealt with. For me, my healing came way before. But when I wrote the book, there was a deeper surface that needed to be healed that I never actually dealt with. Am I still healing from certain things in my life? Yes, I am. Because even relationships with friendships, how I handle them. I've always, when I was growing up, I see my mom with a lot of friends and they would have miscommunication and the friendship was completely done. I'm learning now that it's okay to have transparent conversations. It's okay to hold each other accountable. It's okay to say to the other person, well, you hurt my feelings. I don't like what you did. That doesn't mean that I no longer love you. I no longer trust you. I just don't like what you did and how you handled that situation. And it hurt me. Maybe that was the best decision for you to handle it that way. But in my opinion, it wasn't because it affected me in some way. So my healing came even when I wrote the book. I realized there was areas of my relationship with my mother I needed to heal.
And how is that today? How is your relationship today?
My relationship with my mom is good. It's good. My mom is an old school Jamaican mother, but also a fun one too. And I think for her now in her life, she knows what role she played and she knows what areas that she could have worked on better. And now she's loving me the best way she knows how to. She's calling me, she's checking up on me. And to be honest with you, she apologized to me in her way. I had to learn how to receive that. So the relationship with my mom is great. My relationship with my mom has always been great. I think it's just me that resisted it because I resented her for not showing up for me the way that I wanted her to. So the relationship is good.
No, I'm glad to hear that. I only asked
Yeah.
because um I've we all in some way either heard someone's story like yours, or we lived it, or experienced it, or we vicariously, watch a movie or something.
Mhm.
And sometimes the relationship is so fractured that it never ever mends. Um, Sometimes, unfortunately, things happen, and for persons watching the show, maybe triggered, sometimes people can't handle it, and you know, they feel hopeless. And what happens sometimes when you feel hopeless and you don't have anyone to speak to, then you take matters into your own hands, and it can end tragically. So I am aware of stories, and I do feel like the fact that you are able to say today that you have a great relationship with your mom, it's not always the case for some people who have gone through what you've been through. So I'm happy to hear that.
I think
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said that just because we see other people in their relationships with their parents and sometimes we look at it and we're like, oh, I wish my relationship was like that, right? Everything can't be the way that we want it to be. And I had to learn that.
Did you
So
guys go to therapy? Sorry, I don't mean
it,
to cut you.
no, we didn't go to therapy, but so when I talk about God, and I just want to make this clear to everybody, the way that I healed and my relationship with God, that is for me. Not everybody is going to believe in God. Not everybody's going to have a relationship with God. That doesn't mean that you will never become who you're supposed to be. That doesn't mean that you can't heal. But the moment that you understand, I had to understand what healing really meant because sometimes we think, well, I'm not dealing with the situation anymore, so I'm healed. Oh, I don't care about the situation anymore, I'm healed. But no, when you feel something, when you're around that person, you hear that person's name, that means you're not healed.
Exactly.
The emotions are still floating around there and you have to deal with them. Because a lot of times before, I was the one that was stopping my mom and I to have a good relationship because I didn't like the way that she handled things. I don't like the way she communicates. I don't like the way that she's so nonchalant about things and she just blows things off and she doesn't know how to really have a conversation, a deep conversation without laughing about it, right? Or making it a joke. But then we also have to understand that
That
people
might be a
were raised,
coping mechanism for her, making
that's
a
a coping
joke.
mechanism for her, right? Because I also laugh about situations as a coping mechanism for me. But she was raised in a certain time. She has experiences too. She has unhealed layers of her. And we have to learn to allow people to be who they are in their season and not judge them. We don't have to like what they're doing, but we're all humans and we all go through things in our life. I'm not perfect. I've said things, I've done things, and I've hurt people unintentionally. And whether it's unintentional or intentionally, we still did it. We take accountability for it. But I also had to learn is that I had a mother that God still allowed to be on this earth and alive, that I have an opportunity to build something with her and express to her how I'm feeling and what I want from her. Whether or not she's capable of giving that to me, that's okay. We can learn to love people from a distance and accept them for who they are and move on in our lives. So for people who are experiencing that where them and their parents aren't close, you have to decide what do you really want? What are you expecting from that parent? And are you willing to listen to that parent tell you? And as much as we can say they should know better, they're adults, they're our parents, they should know better. That's not always true. That is not always true. Sometimes our parents are carrying some trauma that they were told they had to just shut up about and move on. Shut up and get over it. But if you are willing and you want to heal and have a better relationship with your parents, sometimes we have to bite the bullet and just go to them and say, hey, I want to build something with you, and I'm sorry for how I behaved or how you perceived that I behaved that was wrong. But how can we move on from here? And I know that you've gone through things in your life too, and I may not understand it, but I want to build a relationship with you. How can we do that? And if you have to go to therapy with your parent, do it.
As if they want the therapy, because not everybody believes in it, and some people are so adamant, oh, I'm not doing therapy, especially if the parent is a male parent. Men,
Yeah.
some men just don't. But that's a story for another time. But yeah, you're right. I
And
think
then just
that
pray
everyone
about
has
it,
their own
honestly.
journey.
And I'll tell you this, my mom, like I would ignore her calls. Months will go by and I don't speak to my mom. I remember one
What?
whole year went by, I didn't speak to her. And
What?
yeah, and I prayed about it. I said, God, I can't change her. And I want you to heal my heart because I don't want to feel this way about her. Because I love my mother dearly. And it's funny because a lot of times when we pray about things, we don't realize that they're all in motion. It's all in motion, even if we can't see it happening in front of us. God's working on the back end. And now when I see my mom calling me and she's like, you know, you guys should live good. And I love you guys. And I'm proud of you, right? And I'm like, you're proud of me? Like, like now when I'm seeing these things happening and she's doing these things, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I prayed for. And it's coming in the form that God wants to come through, and I have to accept that. So a lot of things, whether if you're not a Christian, work on yourself first. And when you work on yourself, you can go to that person. Don't go to somebody knowing that you are still working on yourself and your mindset's not there, and then you're gonna try to go to them and be like, oh, well, you did this, you did that, you need to heal. You're just attacking. Work on yourself so that you can move in love.
That's great advice. Work on yourself first. In everything, it starts with me first. As the Bible say, you're trying to that take the plank out of your own eye first before you try to take
Right.
the speck out of your brother's eye or your neighbor's eye.
Exactly.
Makes sense. Yeah. So Janelle, how has faith? Because a big part of this conversation so far has been around your faith in God and your commitment to Him. How has that helped you find your purpose, if you found it? Because it sounds like you have.
Oh boy. Faith. Accepting who I was. And I say that because a lot of times we don't accept who we are. There's so many influences out there in the world, and we're trying to fit in these boxes that we weren't meant to fit in. We're trying to fill these gaps. We're trying to live a certain lifestyle that's not for us. Faith. Faith has been an up and down thing for me, a roller coaster. I've questioned God, saying, well, God, you told me that this was gonna happen, that was gonna happen, and I don't see it. So where are you? Um, Having faith helped me to step into my purpose and who I am, because I had to believe that God wanted me here for a reason, and that he had a huge calling on my life, whether or not I knew what it was. Because there are situations that happened where I felt like I didn't want to be on this earth. I've experienced wanting to be suicidal. And have I attempted? Partially, I have attempted. But every situation that's happened in my life, I knew that it was God. And I knew that everything I went through was him trying to lead me here. So my faith has wavered. I've dropped my faith. I've picked it up. I've kicked it. But I never forgot it, because it's what led me here. Even
Oh,
faith in my own self, because that's hard. Like, yes, we believe in God and everything that he says, but the faith back into myself, having the faith that I can do it, that was the bigger part, because imposter syndrome came around every chance it got. No, you can't. You're not worthy. What are you doing? That's not for you. Your voice has no power. I'll tell you, even when I started out the podcast, I would never listen back to my own voice. I could not listen to my voice. Why could I not listen to my voice? My confidence wasn't there. My faith was low in my own self. But having that faith is what made me fully step into who I am and accept the things that God wants me to do and to become.
And I'm so glad you did because I don't think we'd have met otherwise. Who knows, right?
You know, it's right.
You have a powerful, powerful voice and a powerful story. And so it's interesting when you said what you just said that you don't have power when you thought that way. The devil comes in different ways to kind of, because he I don't know if he knows ahead of time, but he's, what God has in store for us. And that's why he's trying to put certain things in our path to stop it,
Mm-hmm.
not realizing that God is God and he has control. And the fact that you had to dig deep a lot of times, and thanks for sharing your story about it wasn't always smooth sailing, because as you said, it's a journey. Healing is a journey, and sometimes you drop off the wagon, so to speak, or you don't have the whole you have good days and you have bad days. I put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
So thanks for sharing that. How does transforming wounds into wisdom look like for you? Because it looks like a lot of things from the outsider looking in, but how does it look like for you? Or what does that look like
Transforming,
for you?
transforming wounds into wisdom. That was with the book. But even throughout my whole entire life that I can think of, I was always that person that was positive. Even when I was going through the worst time in my life, nobody would know. I
Really?
remember, yeah, I remember even when I was going through the molestation at home, I remember, I'll give you an example. I remember I went to Rib Fest and I seen this girl that I went to high school with. And I walked up to her and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And she said, "Janelle, you're saying hi to me?" And in my head, I'm like, "Well, yeah, like why wouldn't I say hi to you?" And she's like, "I thought you didn't like me." I was like, "Why would you think that? Why would you think that I did not like you?" She said, "Well, you were around the girls that were making fun of me. Like they used to make fun of my hair and all this stuff." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm sorry because I don't remember that version of myself. And if I did that to you, and I'm guilty by association because if I stood there and I did nothing, I apologize." I said I was going through the most darkest moments of my life when I was in high school and nobody knew. I was always that kid that was positive, dancing, happy, encouraging another friend, showing up, and nobody knew what I was going through at home. Even in my adult life, I would be going through the worst things. Nobody knew because I was always that person that was a voice for somebody else. I was always talking about faith. I was always like, listen, this is not your end all be all. You will rise. Because every time I was going through something, I still rose. I woke up every day. I was still able to be in my skin, in my body. I had good health. I was still able to provide for my family, provide for myself. I was still growing even when I was going through the worst time of my life. So my wounds helped me to encourage not only myself, but other people. Because while I was going through trauma, pain, abusive relationships, so many things, I was still able to use those wounds to sharpen me and my future self. Because I knew that what I was going through was only shaping the woman that I was going to become. And I had to be a voice to show somebody else that what you're going through right now, you're just planting a seed because we're all living testimonies. And if we are not going through things in life, How can I tell you to have faith? How can I tell you that you're going to get over it if I've never experienced anything? I can't tell you that. I can't tell you you're going through a relationship breakdown with your partner right now and you want to leave. I've never experienced it before. I don't know what you're feeling because I've never been cheated on. I've never been lied to. I've never had God use my wounds and use them to shape me into something greater. So, how can I be a voice for you if I've never experienced anything like that? But I can tell you that even though you're going through a breakdown in your relationship, that doesn't mean that's the end of your relationship. Maybe that breakdown needed to happen so that the real issues could be addressed. You guys can get to know each other better. The real healing can happen. Your partner can now know that that secret that you've been holding, that you were molested, traumatized, you went through abusive relationship, you almost lost your life. This is why you react and you're so quick to pack your bags and run. This is the reason why, because of past experiences that you've gone through. So my wounds were my wisdom. That is what I needed to use for the platform, my podcasts, for my books, for my coaching. I can only speak to you from my experience level. I can only speak to you from a place where I know that if you actually put in the work, something beautiful will come out of it. You can manifest great things in your life. And then the magazine, a lot of times, most magazines will only take people that are of high stature. They have titles to their names, they have awards, they're celebrities, they're big names, they got 1 million followers, 1,000 followers on social media. But I want people that have a root story because I was that person that had a root story. And without the money and certain things, you weren't able to get on those platforms. The magazine is to give back to people and give them their flowers. What is the story? What is the root? How did you get there so that we can now pour into this generation and continue to plant seed in the next generation? Because when we leave here, what are we leaving behind? Material things, money? We're leaving things that people can actually use to sharpen themselves, to grow, to continue believing that they're going to get to that level that they need to get to. And how are you going to do it? So my wounds were definitely my wisdom because it taught me a lot and I learned a lot. And I would never tell anybody to hide their wounds or run away from it. Those are a part of your story, but they are not your story. There's a difference. They're a part of your story, but they're not your story.
They're not the whole story. Yeah. So, what would you say to someone, a woman, anyone watching or listening, who's currently going through a painful season right now? What word would you leave with them?
I'll leave the same word that I had to learn for my own self. And I'm still learning it now. Go quiet. You're going through a hard season. There's a lot of noise in your life right now, whether from friends and especially from your own self. You are telling yourself 1,001 thing right now. You are trying to convince yourself of so much right now. Imposter syndrome floating around. That's another voice that's coming to kill, steal, and destroy. You're wanting to pick up the phone and tell everybody what's going on. But the moment that you have to go and seek advice from everybody, that's the moment that you mess up. You have to go still. You have to be silent so you can hear the real voice that you need to hear. Take the time. Be by yourself for a minute, whether it's taking a drive, sitting in your car. Your car can be your prayer closet. I just said this the other day. Your prayer closet doesn't have to be a physical closet in your home. It can be you going in your car, driving, pulling over. And prayer doesn't have to be, and I said it again, I believe in God. I am a Christian, so that's different for me. But it could be mantras. It could be you getting a journal and writing down how you're feeling, the things that you want to change in your life and why. the season that you're in. Why do you think you're going through that season? And what do you want to come out of that? What do you want to come out of that season? Write it down, fold it up, and put it somewhere. Take the time to work on yourself. Find somebody, it doesn't have to be therapy. Find somebody that is unbiased, that is willing to listen, and that is not judgmental, that can be an outlet for you. And on the other hand, if you are a Christian and you believe in God, you have to block out the noise so that you can hear God's voice. You have to hear him and hear what he's telling you to do. The only way that you can get out of situations when you take the time to truly work on yourself. Make a conscious decision that I want to change. I want things to change in my life. This situation's painful. It is painful, but you will get through it once you make a decision on how you want it to turn out, how you want it to change. What do you want to see different in your life? And manifest it. That manifestation part and that belief and that faith. That is what you need. Plant a seed. Know how to water, know how to water and nurture your own seeds, because the way that I nurture and water mine will not be the same way that you're supposed to nurture and water yours. Plant the seed of what you want. If it's a new job you want, plant that seed, work on yourself. What is the new job that you want? Your relationship's not working. Do you want to lead that relationship, or do you want that relationship to be healed and a fresh slate start? It all goes back to self and how we show up for ourselves and the things that we pour into ourselves. So I would say start with yourself. It may be painful, but start to pull back the layers. Sometimes you have to go back from childhood. I do have to go back from way childhood. My expectations as a child, it didn't turn out that way with my mother. But was she a mother that was there for me? Yes. Was she a provider? Yes. Did I ever go to bed hungry? No. She loved me, but there was a different way that I wanted to be loved. And she just didn't know that. So it's that self work that you really have to do, no matter how painful it is.
And on that note, Jen, thank you so much for sharing. What a wonderful conversation. Difficult to hear some things, but life is always full of positives and negatives, and smooth and hard. That's what I call it, life, and I just wanna I just hope and pray that whoever listening or watching will get what they needed to get from this conversation. Thank you so much. And before I go, can you share with the audience how we can reach you, how we can connect with you, purchase a book or tune in, the magazine? Tell us, how can we get in touch and learn
So
more?
on Instagram, you can find me at the real Jen Simpson. The magazine Instagram page is Mirror to the Mic Mag. And then the podcast is Life's Deceit Podcast. Also, you can visit www.janellesimpson.com or www.mirrortothemicmagazine.com. You can email me, info@janellesimpson.com. The magazine editorial at mirrortothemic also.com. All my books are on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all the books, all the major bookstore platforms. The books are on there. Um, yeah, you can reach out mostly on social media though, and Facebook is Jen Simpson.
Thank you so much for sharing again, Jen. And don't worry if you missed that. I'm going to drop those links in the description under the video. Thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Di. Stay tuned for the next one.